Right, I'm going to strip down the distributor today. The outside is pretty manky. This fine adjustment was pretty much seized. That's very loose. So this video is pretty much for me, really, on how things go back together. Right, here we go, let's have a look at this. So if I hold the shaft at the bottom and wiggle this, there's loads of play in that. So that's got to go. I'll try and get one without this riveting. Where should we start? Let's take the points out. I know it should be a spanner. I'll try and find a spanner to fit when I put it all back together. We've got that little nut, little washer. And that's a one of those shake proof. I've got a cheese head screw and a plain washer, no, spring washer. Cheese head looks like the same size and everything. Plain washer, and I think there should be a spring under there as well, spring washer, which is absent. The base plate's loose. Does that come out with that? I'll pause it a minute and try and fathom that out. Okay, if all else fails, look at the instructions. You've got to slacken off this nut here. There's a brass nut on there. Slacken that off. And then these bits lift out. And I guess we didn't need to take that bit off, but it's off anyway. And this bit will lift out and spring away. Lift it off this peg. Is that loose? I'm making a meal of this, aren't I? There we are. Now this plate looks bent to me here. There's a hole here and there's a peg that's coming through that's attached to this adjustment, and it's I think that should be way down and that's bent up. I think somebody's forced that free at some point. So carry on, this wire doesn't look very clever. Take this nut off. One thing about making these videos is it, although you wouldn't believe it, it does encourage me to tidy the garage a little bit. Right, I'm going to take this wire off. I'm just going to take that out of there before I lose it. What else can we take off? I'll take this off. I guess this is a condenser. That wasn't very tight. When I was a kid, I replaced one of these on a Ford, and I didn't screw it down very tight, and it came loose and came into contact with the rotor, and of course I had a bit of a mess then. So what moves? Nothing moves there. I'll pause it and investigate. That's probably just me, but the book doesn't make anything look very clear. So I've undone these 3 screws here. And these are countersunk. And I've undone this centre screw here. All seems pretty solid still. Try and doing these. You'd think now something would be loose. Okay, we'll undo this on the side. So here we've got a nut, a spring washer, a spade contact, and another nut. That wire's loose now. So here's what happens. I put a couple of marks there so it lines up again, and this whole lot comes off there. This is what we got on the bottom of that. Nice cruddy stuff. And in there, equally cruddy. So down here we've got the weights. I'll do a bit of marking up now. So I've marked up with this white paint here, here and here, so on the weight, whatever this bit is, and this driving bit. Right, here we are then. So this bit will slide off, the mark on there. Then this comes off. I'm just going to mark that again. So keep them all back in the same place. And presumably this roll pin comes out at the bottom. To take this plate off. I'm not sure if I'm going to go that far. I'll think about that for a minute. Right, I'm going to leave that at that. I've had this in a hot ultrasonic with paraffin in it, or kerosene as some people call it. That's nice and free. I can oil it down there. I'm just a bit bothered about this roll pin. It doesn't look like it's going to come out nicely, so I'm going to leave that in. I put a scratch mark where my white paint was, because my white paint had disappeared. My 2 marks here nearly disappeared, but I just managed to remark them. So I'll put that aside to dry, re-oil it, and get all the bits back in. This is what one of the weights looks like. There's a sort of washer spacer there. This affair goes on there. This peg here sits in that hole, and that goes on that shaft there. That just drops in there. So oil or grease on there. I'm going to go for a little dab of grease. Right, these are back in. I think it's worth just remarking everything again, and then this goes on the back on the top. I should put some lube on here, but it doesn't just slide on easily. You've got to move that in to get it in. There we are. So I'll put a bit of this stuff on, this assembly lube. Nice thick stuff, so it should stay there a while. I'm going to put that down the centre shaft, and then a bit of grease on these pegs. And on the underside of here is a raised little metal blob, which these sort of slide on as well, so it's worth getting a bit of grease on those, I would say. So right, and that's that bit back together, I think. So have a look at the top bit. So back to this bit here, and that's got a definite bend in it here, which I don't think should be there. I'll see what it looks like when I get it out. But it looks like to get it out we've got a circlip here. So we take that out and see if that top plate slides out. So circlip off the bottom, and this star-shaped thing comes off, and this starts to pull out. So I'm going to mark it up again where it goes. That goes around there somewhere. It should be self-explanatory because it's got to go on this peg on the adjuster. And I think we can only go so far. And I've got to get this screw out for this wire. That's what we got out of there. And free. Now, I didn't actually see where this came from. Well, this is just out of there. So insulator there for that wire. This wire has been taped up a few times. And on the other end of that we've got a square-headed bolt. And what looks like a fibre insulator, and that seems to go like that. So the wire coming off there, the flat here which holds that bolt head, and that's what that looks like. So I wonder if we can buy these wires, because that looks like it's seen better days. There's a little bend in that plate. I'm sure that should be flat. I'll clean it and try it and see what shape it needs to be. I think that wire's seen better days as well. Well, there's an awful lot of bits on the bench now. Can't tell what that is yet. Bit of rubber that just terminates there. Or some sort of contact. Don't know yet. So this is cleaned up. This is makes some sort of contact with this centre bush, I think. Not quite sure what that is. But I've straightened this plate out, and that fits much nicer now. And that fits over this peg. All the insulation's gone off this wire here. The wire actually looks alright. I'm gonna keep that wire. See if I can put a bit of heat shrink on it. Doesn't really matter. I think it's just a ground wire. So try and remember where everything goes now. So I've got some, I can't get any heat shrink on there, so I'm just going to leave that. Get a bit of lube on here. A bit more than I intended, but I've already oiled this. So that's going to go back in there. And then I've got to fix that back to the base. So I'll pause while I fiddle with that. Right, so that's on, a bit of a fiddle getting down that hole to screw it in, but that's done. That works alright. So on the bottom we've got this star, and that's how I took it off. And then we've got this clip to go on. That went on easy enough. I don't know if there's a position that should be. It can't go past this blob though, really. That's going to stop it. So we've got, maybe I should have put that on first. Let's have a look at this other wire that's not very clever. This is the other wire that was taped up. The insulation on there has disappeared to nothing. That's a very fine braided wire. It's actually in good condition. So see what I can do with that. Just going to get a note of how this went together. So yes, you really have to put this wire in before you put this in. So take it all to bits, put this in, and that's what you've got there. You've got that square assembly, and I managed to cover that in shrink wrap. I just folded that end tab over, slid it on, bent it back, and that all seemed good. It has made it a bit rigid, so I'll see what that feels like when it's all back. So I think these can all go back together now, these two parts. Where are my marks? Marks have disappeared off this bit, so I've got on the bottom one but not on the top. So it looks like those mounting holes for the screws are off. So I can only go one way. Now I did pull this piece out of here, which is some sort of absorbent felt stuff, so just put that back in and try and figure out which way this goes on. Right, back to where we were. So I would get that screw back in the top there, because as you're trying to put this back on and move it round, this can lift and it comes out of those pegs again. So at least get it in lightly. Looking back at my video, I found my mark, and my mark is somewhere there. So that can go back on. And I'm going to get these 3 screws back in. 1, 2, 3. And there we are, all back together, gapped up. Just put a little smear of grease on this cam. Put it back in the car, see if it works. And no bits left over, which is good.